Hi everyone, and welcome to StudioJake. I, of course, am your host, Jacob Airy. Thank you for joining me today. First of all, I want to thank everyone who stuck with me during my hiatus. Once again, as you can see, I'm still working hard to develop my filming space. I've got a little bit ways to go, but I did get my microphone back, so I'm very excited about that. Also, consider purchasing one of my novels. These two are part of a fantasy series that I am writing. The final one is on its way. It's called the Seven Royal series. You can get them at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, or BookLocker.com. You can also get my urban fantasy series Cacophony, which is about a gaggle of demons that are trying to corrupt humans in this town, and the angels sent to stop them. So definitely check those out when you have a chance. They're all available on Amazon, but for sure the Seven Royals are also available at booklocker.com. So I don't usually do this, but this was just too hilarious to pass up. So I did a video about my misgivings about how they're promoting Wakanda Forever. And, primarily it focused on the changes they're making to Namor and how, they're mishandling the death of Chadwick Boseman, and of course, Shuri possibly becoming the new Black Panther. Now, I repeated at least 2 or 3 times in it that Ryan Coogler is a fantastic director, and he'll be able to pull it off. I just don't trust Disney Studios or Marvel Studios to handle it well. But we'll see. Like I said, the movie's not out yet. I was just talking about my personal misgivings. So forgive me from reading off my phone, but I just had to read some of these triggered comments from some of these folks, because it just captures the mindset of the people that Disney are trying to appeal to, which are not people who know anything about the comic books. They have no idea. They just read what they hear on Wikipedia, or they read new stuff that has only been out for a year or two, and then they think they know everything. And it really cracks me up. Now, I'm not going to read them all because some people are just just insane, like you could kind of tell. But now, this is not. Please don't go harass these accounts. Leave them alone. I'm not going to, no one has said anything too nasty yet, so I don't feel like I need to moderate, but I just wanted to read these. So, from this anonymous account, C. Bricklin, who is probably a writer at Disney, saying this: all the buzzwords to lose half your supposed audience. Woke, SJW, Mary Sue, social justicey. Whom do you think these movies are being made for? Clearly not you. Do people like you never bother to ask yourselves why is it, or why you think Marvel makes these changes from the comics? And for the record, it's not Atlantis, it's Tolakan. They've already been clear that they've changed Namor's backstory and origin for this movie and for the MCU for obvious reasons that had nothing to do with wokeness, which would intimate... So incorrect use of that word, by the way. Obviously, that the way his name is pronounced is different. Again, for obvious reasons. Okay, so the buzzwords. I think this is hilarious. I don't begrudge people using buzzwords. People use buzzwords all the time. So like he says, woke. Okay, so that's a hypersensitivity to left-wing causes. That's what being woke is. It's an infusion of that. SJW is a social justice warrior. That's someone who is woke, who identifies as woke, and they're after equity, not equality, which is not possible. Mary Sue, which is a character, or it could be a Gary Sue, where instead of them having to fold to the universes, that's I'll put it to you like this way: a Mary Sue or a Gary Sue is a character that the universe bends for them. They don't have to bend to the universe. So, we saw Wesley Crusher from Star Trek The Next Generation. That's a perfect example of a Gary Sue. We have Rey Palpatine from the Disney Star Wars. She's clearly a Mary Sue, and so on and so forth. Captain Marvel from Captain Marvel. She's a Mary Sue, obviously. Social justicey. So, again, that just goes back to the whole wokeness. So, whom do you think these movies are being made for? Clearly not you. Okay, that's fine, but they want to spit in my face, a longtime comic book reader who's been reading comic books for up to 20 years. I know the lore. They should be trying to appeal with me. Now, I don't expect every movie adaptation to be perfectly in sync with the lore. Certainly Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films wasn't like this. Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy wasn't like this, but they maintained enough of the core elements of the characters they represented. They didn't have to infuse it with any sort of talking point to appeal to a bunch of penniless, spoiled brats on social media. They should be making it for guys like me who has been collecting the lore for up to, like I said, over 20 years. The first time I saw something Batman, who is my favorite superhero, I was not even in kindergarten yet. Same with Spider-Man, who is my second favorite comic book hero. In fact, that's what bore my love of many other things that people consider nerdy, like Sonic the Hedgehog or Transformers. Definitely, or even Star Wars to some extent, although Star Wars certainly was more standalone. But yeah, so he says, do you people like you never bother to ask yourselves why it is or why you think Marvel changes makes these changes from the comics? Yes, I do. It's because they want to appeal to the corporate press, which has largely been taken over by people who are politically correct and are caving to these woke ideologues. And maybe you don't like my use of the term woke. Well, it's better than saying what they actually are: morally and creatively bankrupt commentators, as opposed to actually people who love the lore and write from the lore or try to maintain it. So no, that's why they're doing it. They want to get yays off social media instead of a buck from guys like me who actually have the money to go and see these things. But I'm not really even excited for anything Marvel. DC might win me back. We'll see. I'm not sure. Okay, so then he says, okay, so then his last statement, the whole thing about it's not Atlantis, it's Talokan. Okay, that's a problem. In the source material, Namor, he is half human and half Atlantean. He was born with white skin instead of blue skin, which is what the Atlanteans typically have. There was no need to change the character. And like I said in my video, if this guy had actually bothered to watch it, I said that the same actor could have portrayed the character. They just didn't bother to make him look like Namor. They gave him one of those, this, I don't know what the look was going for. It seems very more opportunistic than creative. So I just thought that was really hilarious. And so then Prism Pixie, who's one of my biggest fans, probably my biggest fan, she gets involved in this, and a guy jumps in who goes by Matt Smith. So a Doctor Who fan, clearly, for those of you who don't know, Matt Smith is a actor who portrays Doctor Who. I think he was the second of the modern. I'm not familiar with Doctor Who. That's outside of my fandom. But he was. I do know enough to know that Matt Smith was one of the actors. So we got a Doctor Who fan here. So his comment is so funny. Like, you can just tell these folks are just frantic that no one agrees with them, that no one wants to buy their creatively bankrupt character. So he chimes in, could you kindly point to the comic issue that establishes that Namor is a white fellow and that his culture is based on that? Could you please... and no, I'm not looking for the color they used for his skin, but an actual comic reference to him being white and his culture not having Hispanic influences. Forget that these are comic characters. Call them modern myths if you want, but Spider-Man has changed several times. Yeah, to Marvel's detriment. Anytime they change Spider-Man, they have a drop in sales, with maybe the exception of Ben Reilly. Nick Fury has changed server times, misspelled several there. You people get hung up on race a lot. No, these people get hung up on race a lot, and that's the problem. And then get upset when someone who knows the lore asks why it bothers you so enough. This guy doesn't know the lore. He says Nick Fury has changed several times. Nick Fury has changed exactly twice. They introduced the African American Nick Fury, who they established is the son of the original Nick Fury. He is actually an original character. Now, I'm not a huge fan of characters who succeed their predecessor. I'm not. I don't like when Dick Grayson is Batman. I like Dick Grayson as Nightwing. I just think he identifies better as Nightwing. That's just my personal opinion. But Nick Fury, who's the African American one, it is established in Earth 616 that he is the son of the original Nick Fury, who is white. He was played by David Hasselhoff in a film. Just to put it in perspective, I think the film was called Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It came out in the 90s. I've seen it. It's really terrible. Anyway, so this guy doesn't know the lore. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He has no idea what he's talking about. He's never heard of Nick Fury. He just knows that name from the MCU. Spider-Man has changed a lot. Okay, fair enough. And like I said, anytime they would try to change Spider-Man, sales would drop, with the exception of Miles Morales. Again, a separate character. He's not Peter Parker that's been race swapped. He's a new character. Now, I don't like Miles Morales in the comics. He gets a lot of crappy writers. I do like him in animation. I thought they did a great job of presenting the character in Ultimate Spider-Man, the one where Drake Bell voiced Spider-Man. I thought that did an awesome job. I liked him in the Spider-Man PS4 game, and I liked him in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. If you don't believe me, go back and read some of my stuff on my website. This is a different character. It's not the same thing as Peter Parker. Now, I know guys like Eric July, they don't like Miles Morales. I respectfully disagree. I like Miles Morales in other media, but in the comic books, he has gotten some really crappy writers because Marvel only hires amateurs. They don't, these days, I should say. They haven't really hired any great writers, maybe since 2010. And then when they try to bring good writers back, they always put so much pressure on them that they end up writing terrible stories because they have to go through all these editors who care more about getting high fives on social media than they do relaying the actual material and the lore. So then he says, you people get hung up on race a lot and then get upset when someone who knows the lore asks why it bothers you so much. No, Matt Smith, you are the ones obsessed with race. Because every time that a character who is originally Caucasian gets switched, you all celebrate and act like it's the biggest deal in the world. That's happened more times than I can count on my fingers and toes. Because it is a one-trick pony that DC and Marvel have decided to adopt. There are other ways. Create original characters. Now, and also, as to answer his question about point to the comic book issue, okay, Namor's origin, I don't have the exact reference, but his father's name is Leonard Stewart Mackenzie, who is a Scotsman. He is Scottish. So, of course, he's going to have pale skin. I'm part Scottish. I am whiter than mayonnaise, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with those kinds of characters. There are Hispanic characters in the comic books, but Marvel Studios and Disney are too lazy and, quite frankly, cowards and not uplifting those characters. Think about this for a minute. White Tiger is a perfect example. A Hispanic character. Oh, what are they doing? Why aren't they introducing that character? That would be a perfect character to introduce into the MCU. The character is Hispanic. He or she, because it's a father and daughter team. They come from South America. They could have easily included them in the MCU. I don't think Sony would have made a big deal about that. But no, they're too lazy and too cowardice to uplift these original characters that already exist. And quite frankly, if it does bother me so much, why would it bother Matt Smith if they decided to cast Johnny Depp as Blade? I most certainly think it would. I think he would have a full-on panic attack and literally shake or whatever it is these folks do. But he's not done. because he was responding to, he was mansplaining to one of my female viewers when he said those things, because these guys are all hypocrites, right? So then he continues, first off, could you find something else to say other than woke? There's a drinking game to be had with you saying it so much that I don't want to crash my liver on a second video. Well, that's kind of funny because we do the same thing with, with words like inclusion and equity and my girl Galadriel. We also do that with that. Second, recasting Black Panther would have been an impossible task. There's no argument to be made on this front. That's a stupid thing to say. Roles get recast all the time. War Machine was a recast. Why would that have been impossible? That is a really stunning and, quite frankly, racist statement to say there is no other talented African-American actor who could take on that role. Oh my gosh. That is an incredibly bigoted statement to make. But of course, they don't realize that that's the case. They're too caught up in their own head. So he goes, third, the comic's gone woke. I'll admit I'm not the most loyal reader of Black Panther, but then shut up. I kind of think the entire point of the comic and the series went right over that head of yours. What? Woke ideology was introduced yesterday. Black Panther is one of the most popular black superheroes around. Are you kidding me right now? When Black Panther was introduced, it had absolutely nothing to do with woke politics. They introduced an African king as a superhero who can inspire Americans. That's diverse, and that's real diversity and something worth celebrating. It's not woke. Having true diversity, true equality is not woke. That is a lazy argument. Woke is when you try to force politically correct ideals onto something in this hypersensitive leftist ideologue. It's absolutely stupid. I can't, it cracks me up, these triggered people. Fourth, Black Adam is from Kwandok, not some place. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the exact name. I did mention that it was based on a North African nation similar to Libya, Egypt, Sudan. I guess that went over his head as well, but that will be for a later time. Fifth, Joan of Arc. People upset. Trying to use Joan of Arc to justify your clear issues with race and gender issues is pretty stupid, considering the entire story behind her life. Yes, you're making my point. Thank you, I guess. Six, making Namor Hispanic in no way detracts from his story in any way. I didn't say it detracted from his story. I say making these kind of changes detract from his story, not making the actor Hispanic. The actor could be whatever they wanted it to be. I meant changing the whole lore, starting from scratch when that's going to be shoehorned. Oh my gosh, these people are nuts. It kind of seems like you want studios to apologize for not casting all white actors to play comic characters because that's how you've clearly seen them. Again, stupid. I applaud when they casted now I'm gonna forget his name. What is my problem? Master Ali as Blade. I thought that was a fantastic casting. What is he talking about? Oh, geez, these people are so moronic. Clearly, you're not going to read this, but stop. Just stop. Your criticism is the exact same as 1,000 other YouTubers out there screaming and moaning about woke and wanting to keep everything the way you have it in your head. Yes, it's so stupid to think that these morons on Twitter think that they have some sort of high moral ground just because they're okay with changes to the lore. If these changes had been good, then I don't think people would make a comment on it. The fact is, though, they're doing it just to spit in the face of fans, even fans who might be gay or might be black or Hispanic. They're spitting in their faces as well, saying, oh, you're too boring for us to produce original characters. So yeah, we're just going to shoehorn your identity onto someone because we're too creatively lazy and bankrupt and morally bankrupt to actually do the work. That's what that message is. It's got nothing to do with me. Namor is from Atlantis. His people are literally blue. Yes. Using elements from Hispanic culture to build on his mythos in the MCU is totally fine, only upsets people like you. No, it upsets people like you if they had kept Namor exactly the same and say they had casted even someone who was Hispanic as the character. They said, "Hey, we're gonna keep Namor how he is traditionally in the comics." This guy would have freaked out. They all would have freaked out. They're all a bunch of hypocrites. They have no money, so they build a non-Doctor Who stan accounts from their mom's basements, and then they go around and say that this is the current crowd that Disney is catering to, and it's embarrassing. It's shocking, quite frankly, that they can't even get something as a half human, half Atlantean, full-blooded mutant correct in their little MCU Phase 5, which has gone down the crapper. But again, I want to reiterate, I haven't seen the movie yet. So far, the reviews have been said that that's really good. Ryan Coogler is an excellent director. I just don't trust Marvel Studios, and I certainly don't trust Disney to get it right. If you liked that video, please leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Give it a thumbs up. And I would be honored today if you would subscribe. No matter what platform you're watching on, please subscribe, hit that follow button, share it out all over the place, and check me out on some of my other socials. I've got links in the description below. Also, check out my website, StudioJakeMedia.com, and consider supporting this channel on StudioJakeMedia.locals.com. It really helps us smaller creators out. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.